Do you believe? I don't know if we talked about it on this show, but we might have on one of them. Do you believe when Dana White says that he's not going to trust Jon Jones to headline a pay-per-view when he comes back, that he would only trust him as a co-main event?
Nah, I mean, at the time when Dana said that, of course, he was rightfully so pissed off with Jon Jones. I mean, that was once again a fight card falls through. And, well, it didn't fall through the entire fight card, but the fight fell through. Massive pay-per-view with, Jon Jones versus Cormier, the rematch, highly anticipated. And then it wasn't cocaine this time. It wasn't a car crash. It wasn't him getting stripped. It was him testing positive for steroids. So, of course, Dana is very much like me. He says things out of emotion. I do that all the time. So I think now, of course, USADA are no doubt testing him. So, yeah, he said that. But I see, Jon Jones versus DC or Rumble as a main event. But you never know. That would make a beautiful co-main event for me versus George St. Pierre.
Oh, yeah. Well, of course.
That would, in a perfect world, that would be my ideal go-to co-main event.
Oh, why not? But then also, why not throw Ronda Rousey versus Gina Carano comeback fights on it as well? And what else can we get on there?
Conor McGregor versus Mayweather on the undercard as well.
Why not?
Yeah, it's really going to dream. By the way, while we're on this topic, can you stop asking me questions about Conor McGregor?
Me?
Because, you always bring him up. Because all these little 2-bit websites take whatever I say. Because you ask me a question on air, and I've got to respond. I've got to answer the question, because I don't want to disrespect you. But these little shitty websites take what I say and make a headline out of it because it's all clickbait, So there's a few of them doing the rounds. I know Believe You Me is only into its 3rd episode, but I think we're slowly taking over the podcast world.
Oh, yeah.
And these shitty websites, they need headlines, and you force me to give them, Lewis.
Yeah. Well, look, dude, I'm going to be honest with you. Even just what you just said will probably make a headline. So I don't even have to ask you. You're just complaining about Conor McGregor anytime you say anything about him. I promise you there will be some fucking MMA.
My uncle just messaged me and said, "Lol, heard the cast. Did we talk about my dad beating Conor McGregor last week?"
Did we talk about your dad beating Conor McGregor?
Yeah, because I don't remember that. I said,
No.
"What? Where? You speaking about wrestlers and The Undertaker?"
No.
I have no idea when I ever spoke about The Undertaker. Anyway, whatever. Okay. Moving on. I shall investigate that in my own time.
Yeah. Well, all right, look, I don't want to ask you any questions about Conor, but I will say this, and this is just important to note, as we're talking about MMA news. Conor did say the fight's looking like it's going to happen in September or October. We talked last week about Dana White saying that it's going to happen. This fucking fight, it's going to happen. And it's pretty damn incredible. The amount of buzz, anytime I bring it up to my friends who are not even fight fans, it becomes a circle of 10 dudes really getting into the conversation and really, really excited about it.
Listen, Dana went on Conan O'Brien and said the fight looks like it's going to happen. There's too much money for it not to happen. If Dana says that, that means the fight's going ahead. Okay, they probably haven't agreed to final terms. But that's a pretty big indication that that fight is going to go ahead. Because if it wasn't, he would say, F no, that ain't happening. No way. Conor fights with the UFC. But they've obviously sat back. They've looked at the amount of money involved. And, they all want a piece of that. Why not? So, it looks like it is going to go ahead. And, of course, it is going to capture everybody's imagination. Don't want to repeat myself from last week, but it's boxing versus MMA. The two biggest stars in both fields going against each other. It is, there's something cool about that. It's a refreshing concept. It's not done very frequently. So, it's good. But anyway, enough McGregor talk.
Sorry. Let me ask you,
come on, what are you doing to me? Listen, I get it. I know he's a hot subject out there, but you're forcing me to talk about him, Lewis.
I'm sorry. I apologize. Well,
I don't want to talk about him. It's just that when I say things, and it's like, websites say, Bisping says this about McGregor, but I'm saying, no, it's fucking Lewis. Ask me a question, I respond, and there's your headline.
And you could spin it any way you want, That's it.
Yeah, I can.
So,
as I slurp on my coffee.
Come
on.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Last week, you were slurping on coffee, and then a bunch of people would be like, yeah, sure, it's coffee, Bisping. Nobody slurps on coffee at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. He's drinking a beer.
This is so funny, and my wife has been kind of bitching at me a little bit lately because for some reason, ever since that press conference with GSP, the writing on the wall seems to be that I'm a drunk, which is far from the case. You know what I mean? Far from the case. I'm one of the hardest working athletes in the UFC. You know, I'm always the hardest working guy in the gym. Do I have a beer now and again and enjoy myself? Of course I do. You know, I'm an average guy. I've always said I've never proclaimed to be anything other than an average guy. Average guys have a beer now and again. Does that mean I have a drinking problem? No, far from it. I don't have a drinking problem. I'm a professional athlete. Do I enjoy a drink now and again when the time is right? When the time is right, of course I do. And generally, all I ever do is have a couple of glasses of wine or a beer with a meal. If I'm having a barbecue, I'll have a couple of beers. If I'm at dinner, I'll have a couple of glasses of wine. If I'm in Vegas, 6 months out from a fucking fight, I might end up on a bit of a session. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's what normal people do. You know, it's just George trying to paint the picture that I've got some kind of drinking problem is hilarious. If that's what he needs to tell himself, to give himself an advantage, to give himself the upper hand, then I find that laughable. I really do.
Well, also, you've never shied away from being that guy. It's not like you're enjoying the high life now that you're a champion. I think it's far from it. You know, so, I've known you since you've not been a champion.
No. I haven't changed one little bit, one iota. I've always been like this. You know, I'm. If I have a fight coming up, I'm very, very dedicated. I'll 8 weeks out, I switch into training camp mode. And that's it. You know, I won't touch a drop of alcohol. I'll eat correct foods. I'll get early nights. I'll do all that thing. But I haven't got a fight lined up. And, you know, I find, to be honest, those people that are like me, that can burn the candle at both ends, shall we say, sometimes, I think you'll find they're your most successful athletes. I mean, look at Jon Jones, for crying out loud. All these boring bastards that go to bed at 8 o'clock and they're counting the calories and this and that. You know, I mean, they've got to make it happen. They've got to make it happen. I'm not quite sure what I'm trying to say there.
No, you're saying that athletes should be.
You need that edge to you, and I think all successful athletes, you know, the great ones, do have a certain edge to them, a certain realness.
Well, even forget just the edge, right? Like, you got to understand. Like, think of it. The analogy, like if you diet, right? If you're dieting nonstop, right, and you don't have a cheat day once a month or just once in a while to let the air out of the tires a little bit, to kind of have that release and that break from the monotony of you know, doing that, I think you kind of drive yourself crazy. And I think that, you know, the guy, and whatever, I'm sure that people that are leading a clean lifestyle, it's great. But I'm the same way. I just don't drink. I smoke weed. But if I didn't have pot to smoke, I think I would probably be a way angrier and more uptight person. I think, you know, unwinding and kind of just saying, hey, dude, I need to relax once in a while and be a human being, it kind of keeps me sane, you know?
Yeah, well, you've got to relax. You've got to be yourself. I mean, you touched on cheat meals there. I mean, to be honest, the way I operate, you know, when I don't have a fight, is Monday to Friday. I look after myself. I'll train. I'll eat a clean diet. I try and eat as clean as possible and as close to an in-camp diet as possible. At the weekend, I enjoy myself. Now, when I say weekend, I mean Friday, Saturday, because Friday night, I might go out with friends or my wife or dinner or with the children, whatever. So Friday, Saturday, you know, I wouldn't say the cheat meals, but I just step off the gas. I allow myself to eat whatever I want. And, you know, within reason, when I say whatever I want, I don't want to eat complete shit. So I don't eat complete shit. But if I want to have dessert, if I want to have a couple of glasses of wine, if I want to have an ice cream with my kids on the beach, I will. You know, I'll pretty much eat whatever I want on a Friday night, a Saturday, and a Sunday afternoon. Sunday night to Friday, I go back into, you know, kind of living like an athlete, because you have to do that. Otherwise, you're going to lose your mind, you know. So, and I think that's a pretty good way to do it. So people like one cheat day a week or one cheat meal. But Monday to Friday, I look after myself. Saturday, Sunday, I live like a human being at the weekend. Fucking sue me, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Well, they like to, you know, the fans and the you know, the internet people, they like to kind of run with whatever. They really follow whatever narrative is told. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, as soon as, you know, GSP is saying, oh, what is the problem, Michael? You like to drink too much. That becomes the narrative. Jon Jones being a cokehead will just, it doesn't even matter if Jon Jones has only done cocaine one time.
Right. Like you said, Jon Jones got busted for cocaine, and unfortunately, that's going to stick with him. You know, that's going to be a stigma that people are always going to bring up. Jimmy Jimmy Manuwa brought up the steroids thing at the post-fight press conference. You know, he said, I've got really no desire to face Jon Jones because, you know, he takes steroids. Now, you know, I don't think steroids were completely they're not responsible for the greatness that we saw from Jon Jones. But, of course, you know, you're always going to have to wear that hat. You're always going to have to take it on the chin, just like Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva had some great performances. And, of course, you know, 99% of that was down to skill. But the steroids thing will always be an issue. It will always be a cloud over his head. You know, same with Jon Jones.